Okay, guys. So today's lesson is going to follow on directly from what you did in your last lesson, when you were learning about the Munich Putsch, or the beer hall Putsch, as it is sometimes known. Now, this was the attempt by Hitler in November 1923 to try and forcibly seize power. And what I asked you to do last lesson was have a look at the events of this and try and put them in the correct order. And I gave you the answers, so hopefully you all managed to do that. So just to summarise, effectively this is the period where the Nazi Party, it's got, a couple of tens of thousands of men in support. They've got lots of people that have joined the party since Hitler's taken it over. They're feeling particularly confident. They think now is the time. And the place they decide to go for is Bavaria, because that is the state in Germany where the party is based and where its support is strongest. And if you remember, Hitler was being inspired here by Mussolini, the Italian fascist dictator, who he saw as quite a source of inspiration anyway, and the previous year, 1922, had marched on Rome and forcibly taken the government over. So Hitler has decided he wants to do just that, and he wants to do it in Germany. He's going to take Bavaria, and then he's going to take Berlin and all of Germany. So, the night of the 8th of November 1923, Hitler bursts into the Bürgerbraukeller beer hall in the centre of Munich, brandishing a revolver. 600 SA men surround the beer hall. They get set up a machine gun so no one can leave. Hitler fires a few bullets into the ceiling and he shouts, "The revolution begins tonight." Now, the reason Hitler chose this beer hall is because at this time, this night, this evening, there was a meeting of key officials of the Bavarian government. And those three officials were here. So we've got Gustav von Kahr, he was the head of the Bavarian government. We've got von Seisser, who's here, he was the head of the police. And then von Lüssow, who was head of the army. You notice they're all von this, von that, because they're Junkers. They're from the Junker class. They're, old money, appointed by the Kaiser, effectively. So initially, the three officials, they aren't too keen to support Hitler. They think he's a bit of a lone kind of nut job, effectively. He's come in, he's an extremist, and they don't really want to support him. However, Hitler has, so he thinks, a trump card, which is this man here. His name is Ludendorff. He is a war hero, as you can see from all his medals. He was a very important general in World War I. You may remember last year studying something called the Ludendorff Offensive, which was the big attack that the German army attempted in the final year of the war, and were actually quite successful with. So Ludendorff was very well respected across Germany, and he was somebody that really gave the uprising a little bit of celebrity status. It gave it a kind of a big, high-profile figure in support. So, with Ludendorff on board, Karl, Lüssow and Seisser, they think they have no choice but to agree to what Hitler wants. Unfortunately, Ludendorff is perhaps not as clued up on the plan as Hitler, and later that night, or very early in the morning, he lets those three men go home. Even though now they've publicly said they're going to support Hitler's revolt, but obviously they were kind of forced to. So if you let them go free, the likelihood of them continuing their support is quite slim. Nonetheless, the next morning, Hitler, with about a couple of good few thousand SS men supporting him, march through the streets of Munich. Unfortunately for them, they're met by the army and they're met by the police. Because Lüssow and Seisser have obviously alerted the troops and got them ready to fight these guys off. There's a little bit of a scuffle. 16 Nazis are killed, only 4 policemen, and Hitler has to flee. And he is later caught. So, ultimately, the beer hall putsch, the Munich putsch, is a bit of a disaster, really. It doesn't achieve what Hitler wanted, it doesn't really get anywhere, and he isn't able to take power. And indeed, he is arrested, along with Ludendorff and a few others. Röhm, the head of the SA, and Streicher, who is head of the Nazi newspaper, Der Stürmer. They are all arrested. Hitler is put on trial. Ludendorff gets off because he's so famous, basically. But Hitler and the others, they're found guilty and they get sentenced to 5 years in prison, and the Nazi Party is banned. So, sounds like a pretty big failure to me. However, the point of today's lesson is to think about in what ways this was actually also kind of a success for Hitler. So I'm going to talk you through what happened with the trial and we'll see if you can work it out. So normally, if someone is arrested and put on trial, you would assume game over. Their political career can't survive that. But actually for Hitler, it was a massive advantage. Because prior to this, he was kind of this Bavarian extremist. Not many people had heard of him. Not many people knew about his views. Pretty much overnight, he becomes front page news. Okay, so you can see this is a newspaper from North Dakota, so in the US, and Hitler's on the front page. All right, so internationally and all across Germany, Hitler is suddenly a celebrity. Okay, everyone's heard of him. He suddenly is front page news. Okay, now as we've seen in the past, the judges, the judiciary in Germany, were quite right-leaning. They were quite biased to right-wing figures. And these judges were no different, okay? So they really didn't manage Hitler's trial much at all. They let him speak for hours. They let him cross-examine witnesses like he was a lawyer. The trial went on for 25 days, and effectively it was a big propaganda parade for Hitler. 25 days of him just talking about his beliefs and, attacking the government. And it all ending up in the press so that everyone could read what he thinks. Okay, you can see just this picture here. There's Ludendorff, there's Hitler, and there is Röhm, head of the SA, all as they are about to go on trial. Okay, now Hitler, surprisingly, he doesn't say he's not guilty. He doesn't plead not guilty at all. He pleads guilty, but it's the reason why that is important. So this is what he said. I alone bear the responsibility, but I'm not a criminal because of that. If today I stand here as a revolutionary, it is as a revolutionary against the revolution. There is no such thing as high treason against the traitors of 1918. All right, so he's returning to that stab in the back myth, that idea that the Weimar government were criminals. They were November criminals. They had let the people down. Okay, and Hitler really pushes that in his trial. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to show you a little clip, again from the same film we watched last time, just kind of outlining the events of Hitler's trial, so you can just see for yourself just how he used this opportunity to grasp some publicity, to really make the most of his arrest and make sure that everybody knows who he is and his message, which obviously is going to be great for attracting more support. So watch carefully and listen to what he says.
Let us proceed. General Ludendorff, you have been accused of high treason. How do you plead?
Not guilty.
Adolf Hitler, you have been accused of high treason. How do you plead?
Guilty.
Herr Hitler, are you a German citizen?
You're talking about a piece of paper or the blood that runs through my veins?
Answer the question.
No.
In November of last year, you led a putsch against the Bavarian state and German Reich. You coerced and threatened Commissar Kahr, General Lossow, and Colonel Seisser. You have been accused of high treason and called an enemy of the state.
If a thief takes your money and you you take it back, does that make you also a thief?
In 1918, we were betrayed by the November criminals, the ones who claimed to be our leaders. They entered the war, signed the Treaty of Versailles, and that was high treason.
This is supposed to be an interrogation, not a speech.
I was simply taking back that which was stolen from us 5 years before. Namely the right to defend ourselves against the wishes of an incapable parliament. I used no force. I was supported by Commissar Carr. Why isn't he on trial? If I am guilty of anything, then I am guilty of fighting to defend the rights of the German people.
Fascinating, isn't he?
General Ludendorff, the court finds you not guilty and releases you from custody. Herr Hitler, the court finds you guilty of treason.
Yes!
You are hereby sentenced to a fine of 200 gold marks and 5 years in Landsberg prison. You will be eligible for parole in 9 months.
In the end, he is found guilty. Okay, now he's committed high treason. All right, in theory, he could be looking at life imprisonment. If he was really unlucky, he could have been executed. He gets 5 years. All right, the most lenient, easy, soft sentence you can imagine. And within 6 months, he was eligible for parole. So he could get out really early. And in fact, by the end of the year, he has been officially pardoned and he's out of prison. So he doesn't even serve a full year. Okay, along with the others, they get light sentences. And as I say, Ludendorff actually got off entirely. Okay, Hitler was kept here, this building here, Landsberg prison. He had a comfy cell, lovely, beautiful view of the countryside. He was allowed visitors, he was allowed fan mail, and while he was in prison, he wrote the book Mein Kampf. Okay, his kind of biography, his memoir, Mein Kampf means my struggle. And it was in this book that Hitler outlined many of his views about the Jews, about Lebensraum and taking territory, against the communists, against the government. All of that was in there. So actually, this imprisonment, this trial, was kind of a good thing for him. It gave him an opportunity to spread his views. It gave him the opportunity to put them into a book, which was then published and very successful. And it gave him celebrity status. Okay, so even though the putsch was a disaster, the outcome of it was in some ways quite beneficial for Hitler. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do is you have got some consequences. You've got a sheet with lots of different cards on it. Those are all the consequences of the putsch, some of which I've just talked you through now. What I would like you to do is colour code those. So some are the idea that it was successful, some are that it was a failure. If you don't have a printer, so you can't print those off, what I would suggest you do is in your book, draw a table with 2 columns, success, failure, and copy them into the correct column, just so you've got that work somewhere in your book. Okay, when you've done that, what I want you to do is make a decision. Now, normally in the lesson, this is where we would all get a post-it and we would stick it on the line so the whole class could hear our view. What you're going to do for me this time is you're going to go on Microsoft Teams. I've created a team for our class, and I've made a channel on there called Munich Putsch Success or Failure. What I want you to do is in that channel, post your answer. Okay, so was it a success or a failure? Now, as ever, guys, it's not going to be a total success and it's not going to be a total failure. It can't be a total success. He didn't take over Germany, so it can't be a total success. But it also can't really be a total failure because there were benefits. So your answer is going to be somewhere in the middle, and what you need to do is back that up as well as you can. Okay, so it's going to be to an extent it was a success, or I agree to an extent that it was a failure, or it was partially a failure, or something along those lines. Okay? Any issues, let me know. I look forward to reading your answers.